I believe God wants to shift something from a culture of complaining to a culture of hope and thanksgiving. And so God is the God of all hope. And this is what He writes over you and I in Jeremiah 29 verse 11. He says, I know the plans that I have concerning you. God says, I'm not confused about your future. I'm not confused about my plans and my prophetic purpose for your life. That plans is to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and to give you a future. And the question I'm asking, if we serve a God of all hope, that has a hopeful future for you and I, why is it that so many people, and so many Christians included, so many children of God, live as if they don't have hope, live hopeless lives? You don't have to, it doesn't take us long around the Braaivleis fire to realize that we have lost hope. Because within 5 minutes, we start talking about politics and everything we're facing there. And we start talking about what's happening in our economy and how the condition of the roads is and how the condition of Eskom is and all of this. And we have a culture of complaining, isn't it? And so we've got this tension, we've got this almost disconnect between the God of all hope that has good plans for us, hopeful future, and our reality and our culture, which doesn't always reflect hope. Peter writes this in 1 Peter 3 verse 5, always be ready, he says, to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you. The currency of the church and of the people of God is hope. The currency we trade with our world is hope. The church is likened to be a city on a hill, a light in a dark place, the light of the world. In the darkness of the world, we need to be that ray of light of hope. But what happens if the light loses its light? If the city of hope loses its hope? Then the world becomes an extremely dark place because there's no light to give people reference. And so God is talking to us in this day about having a culture of hope. Having a culture of hope. Because our greatest currency is hope. If we lose the ability to give hope to our world, we lose the right to exist as a church. If you and I as a Christian can no longer walk into a room and be a ray of hope, a ray of light into that dark space, then we are not worth bearing the name Christian. Because we can't defend the reason why we have hope on the inside of us anymore. Colossians 1:27 says, to them God willed to make known what are the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. You and I carry Christ on the inside of us, and He is our hope of glory. And I think sometimes we misplace our hope to all the external things around us, and we try and draw hope. If you're going to try and draw hope from the external things around you, you probably most of the time not going to have hope. And we as Christians are called this morning again to focus inwardly on Christ that is on the inside of us. He is our hope of glory. He is the hope that we carry. And we need to be able to give a defense of this hope that we carry on the inside. Why is it that you can have hope in the most hopeless situation? Why is it that you can shine your light in the darkest space? Because we carry Jesus Christ, the light of the world, on the inside. He is our hope of glory. I want to quickly give you 7 hope stealers and 5 hope killers. Okay? Can you say 7 hope stealers? Because hope leaks. Hope gets stolen. First hope stealer is pain and sickness. I mean, all you have to do, you can be as hopeful as you want. You can be as happy as you want until you suffer pain. You wake up one morning and suddenly you've got gout in your leg. Or in your arm and there's pain, or you've got a neck spasm, or you go to the doctor for a checkup and suddenly they give you a diagnosis with a prognosis that you've got cancer or this, and suddenly your hope is attacked, your hope is stolen. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Hope is lost. pain and sickness. Number 2, financial strain can be a hope stealer. Psychologists teaches us this, that medical or psychological science have proven this, that if a person is subject to prolonged financial strain, listen to this, prolonged financial strain causes the part of the brain that's innovative, where your business creativity and entrepreneurship lies, to switch off. Now, here's the thing. When you're under financial strain, you're in a hole. You're caught in a financial prison or a hole. What do you need to get out? You need a creative plan. In the Afrikaans, we say, 'n boer maak 'n plan. Okay? Why? Because if you're in a hole, you need a plan to get outside of the hole. God says, even if you're in the hole, I've got a plan for your life, and it's a hopeful plan. The problem is when financial strain is prolonged, that side of my brain that can see the Lord's hopeful plan switches off. Okay? And it can steal my hope. Number 3, hope stealer is exposure to a toxic person. I saw some of you just move a little bit further away from your neighbor. You can't do that right now. Okay? Now, listen. Before we go and brand everyone around us toxic, because that's a dangerous thing as well. What do I mean by a toxic person? I mean a person that is just negative about everything. Okay, don't think of your mother-in-law first, okay? But some of us, we know at work or in our family or in our environment, there's people that cannot open their mouth without saying something negative about reality, about somebody else. They're always complaining. Okay? Joyce Meyer says, when you complain, you remain. But when you praise, you get raised. And so if we expose the whole time to negative people, they'll steal our hope. Now sometimes you can't cut a negative person completely out of your life because you work with them. It might be even your boss. It might be your mother-in-law. It might be a relative. So what do? Limit their access into your inner world. Don't let them have free access. Don't let them enjoy the privilege of free access into your core circle, your inner circle. Why? You want to protect your inner circle, and don't let hope stealers come into that place. You relate with them, you deal with them on your terms, not on their terms. Okay? Number 3, a toxic person. Number 4, socio-economic political environment. What am I talking about? The government, policies, corruption, prejudice in terms of certain groups of people that are favored over others. And so we live in an environment that is not very hopeful, right? We're paying taxes, but we're not getting the service delivery for what we are paying taxes for. We are paying taxes partially so that the poor can be looked after by government, but they're not doing that. So we have to do that out of our own pockets. We still need to look after the poor, although our taxes are earmarked to look after the poor. Ish. You see, already the hope level is dwindling in here. Can you feel it? So, being hopeful doesn't mean we live like ostriches putting our hands in the sand and we're not looking the realities in the eye. We know our socio-economic and political environment is not a hope-giving environment currently. The policies of our government is not followed through to give hope to the people. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to complain? Because if we're going to complain all the time, we're going to remain in the situation. Or are we going to become part of the solution? Are we going to live hope-filled lives? Are we going to be a light in the dark place? Number 5, hope stealer is hope deferred. Makes the heart sick, says the Bible. Husbands, be careful not to give your wives false hope. In the sense of, we're going to redo the kitchen at the end of the year. Then the end of the year comes, no, we'll do the kitchen end of next year. Then after 7 years of promising the kitchen is going to be redone, it's still the old kitchen. That defers hope, makes our heart sick. Next time you say we're going to do something, she says, I don't trust you. Parents, be careful not to do that with your children. Don't just give a promise that you're not sure you can fulfill. Rather say, can we trust God together that we'll be able to do this? Amen? Hope deferred. Number 6, being a prisoner of the past. One of our mentors in South Africa, Dr. David Mulapo, has this statement, I am not any longer a prisoner of my past. I refuse to be a prisoner of my past. I want to be a pioneer of my future. I want to be a pioneer of the hopeful future. So how do I stay a prisoner of the past? 2 things. One is resentment, unforgiveness, bitterness. Unforgiveness, resentment because of the sins of others committed against me. Or regrets. Regrets is unforgiveness towards myself for the sins that I've committed, the mistakes I've made. And when I carry resentment or regret, I remain a prisoner of the past. You know, we're good in South Africa to blame. We blame the past regime, we blame the current regime, but as long as we blame, we remain. When we own up, we grow up. And so if we want to live a hopeful life, we need to say, let the past be the past, but we're going to carve out and create a better future. We are created in the very image and likeness of God. It means our words have got creative power. As God created the heavens and the earth from darkness to light, we can create a new South Africa, not with policies only, but with our words. We can create a new South Africa with our actions. We can create a new South Africa with the attitudes we have, the culture we create. We can create a new Kimberley. We can create the best version of Kimberley that ever existed. But we need to carry that hope inside of us. We are not prisoners of our past. We are pioneers of a hopeful future. I want to add one that's not on the slide. It's trauma. A stealer, the 7th stealer of hope is trauma. If you experience violent crime, or you experience a loss of a loved one, or a natural disaster, like a tsunami or earthquake that destroyed your house and your livelihood, it can create hopelessness. It can steal your hope. Psychologists teach us that within 24 hours that somebody has experienced trauma, you need to get them back on the horse, back on the bicycle. In other words, if somebody's house is wiped out, within 24 hours, you must give them the responsibility to say, would you cook for all the people here? Make food. Would you go and clean the yard? Why? Because when you give them that responsibility for their own life, suddenly it activates hope in their hearts again. If you don't do that within 24 hours, a victim mentality sets in and they lose hope. They go into a dark space where they can be trapped for many years, if not dealt with. So trauma can steal our hope. I want to just share with you 5 hope fillers. Can you say 5 hope fillers? Number 1, the promises of God, the prophetic plan He has for your life. God's plan for your life is a hopeful plan. Come on. I know the plans I have for you. It is not plans to harm you. You may go through difficult time. My intent is not to harm you, but to heal you. My intent is to give you hope in your future, says the Lord. And so you and I need to align ourselves to the hopeful plans that God has for you. This is number 2. Hopefulness. Pray daily. Talk to the God of all hope. Talk to the God of all hope. You cannot enter the presence of hope and walk out there hopeless. You cannot talk to the God of all hope and leave His presence without a heart that is filled with hope. Number 3, personal stewardship. Steward your time. Steward your own emotions. Steward your thinking. Steward the relationships, the core relationships. Katinka and I made a certain decision this year. We want to spend most of our time with people who are hopeful. We want to have our inner circle surrounded by people who will add hope to our life, not draw hope from our life, not be hope stealers of our lives. So don't believe if we don't spend time with you this year that you're a hope stealer. Please, just disclaimer. We might not just be able to get time with you, but number 4, I need to protect my heart. Guard your heart more than anything that needs to be guarded. Protect the hope in your heart. And number 5, surround yourself with positive people. Okay, can I give you the number 1 hope stealer? Actually, it's not the hope stealer. This is the number 1 hope killer. Okay, the hope killer. Are you ready for the hope killer? It's a culture of complaining. culture of complaining. Lucifer was in heaven, surrounded by all of God's glory. He developed a culture of complaining in his heart and said, I can do this job better than God. I can do this better than God. God is not doing a good enough job. He started complaining in his heart. He wanted to lodge a complaint in heaven. And he was cast out. Yes, he rebelled. Yes, he led 1/3 of the angels to rebel. Listen to this. But it started with complaining. Then when Adam and Eve was living in the glorious Garden of Eden and had access to all of the wonderful fruits and all of the trees in the garden, everything was going for them. How did Satan tempt him? With a culture of complaining. Eve, God is withholding something good from you. And in her heart, she started complaining against God. Yes, they rebelled against God. Yes, they disobeyed God eventually. But it started with a complaint in her heart that God is holding something good from me. How did Israel forfeit their promised land when they were journeying through the wilderness? Their culture of murmuring and complaining. And when they complained, God says, this generation will die in this wilderness. Yes, they rebelled against God. Yes, they disobeyed God. But the root cause of all of that was their complaining, their culture of complaining. And I can just imagine God being on the mountain with Moses. And here they're like two parents trying to disown 5 million Jews. And God says to Moses, Moses, these Jews, they are not my kids, they are your kids. I mean, how many of your parents know what I'm talking about? As die kinders stout is, Katinka, then they're your children. And then she says, no, they're not your children, my children, they're your children. Okay? How many of your parents love to hang around your kids when they're complaining? You don't. You want to just pass them home. Okay? Drop them somewhere else. God is like that. He says to Moses, Moses, I abdicate my responsibility towards Israel. They're not my kids anymore, they're yours. And Moses goes like, no, Lord, you're not going to get away with this one. I was in the wilderness tending sheep, minding my own business. Then you came and you called me to lead these people out. You're not dumping your 5 million kids on me. I'm not going to get stuck with your 5 million complaining kids. Okay? But complaining cost them the promised land. Child of God. Let us not walk 10 years, 30 years, 40 years in the wilderness of complaining. You know the word complaining in the Hebrew language, midbar? Midbar, when King Solomon writes, he says it's better to live on an exposed housetop than share a house with a complaining spouse. Let me not say wife, because there's some men that complain more than women. Okay? He starts off, he says the complaining of a spouse, not a wife. Ladies, you love me for this, ne? Spouse is like the dripping of a tap. It's irritating. Like tap, tap, tap. Okay? Then the next chapter he goes like, it's like living I'd rather live on an exposed rooftop than with a complaining spouse. The next chapter he's like, this is really bad. I'll rather live in the desert than share a house with a complaining spouse. But you know what? The word complaining in the Hebrew, midbar, means speech that drives you back into the wilderness. Speech that drives you back into the wilderness in circles and circles and circles. It was Israel's speech, their complaining, that drove them 40 years around the same mountain, around the same sand dunes, and they eventually died in that same wilderness because their speech locked them into a prison of complaining. You see, complaining is a hellish habit. Complaining is the language of Lucifer. When we praise, we get raised. When we complain, we remain. Psalm 100 says this, verse 4, come into the presence of the Lord with thanks, giving enter with the password, thank you. So what happens when I praise, when I give thanks, it attracts the presence of God. when I complain, it also attracts a presence, but it's not the presence of God. When I complain, that language that I'm using is attracting the presence of Lucifer into my life. When we complain in our country around the Braaivleis fire, our language is attracting the presence of Lucifer so he can do his work in our country, in our city, in our family. You complain over your children or your spouse the whole time, your language is attracting the presence of Lucifer into your life. Because when we praise and worship God and we use thanksgiving, we're attracting a different presence. We're attracting more of God into our lives. We're attracting the hope of the hope giver into our lives. Let God be God and every man a liar. I'm talking to spouses now. If you complain about your husband in your heart, you don't even have to say it. You complain about your husband or your wife. How many of you know that if for a few weeks you're grumpy and disgruntled about your spouse in your heart, he or she becomes uglier and other people becomes more attractive? It's true. Let God be God and every man a liar. But if you every day come before the Lord and say, God, I thank you for this wife you've given me. Thank you for the good mother she is to my children. Thank you for the way she loves me. Thank you for the way she runs the household. Thank you for the qualities that you've put in him as a husband or her as a wife. How many of you know that when you thank God for your spouse, he or she becomes beautiful or more attractive and more beautiful to you? It's true. Number one hope killer is complaining. The greatest hope giver is gratitude. It's been said that our attitude determines our altitude. I want to rephrase that and say it's an attitude of gratitude that determines our altitude. Thanksgiving is really what it does. What is hell? Hell is a place. Yes, there's a pit of fire. Hell is the place where demons are kept. Hell is the place where unbelievers go when they die. But let me phrase hell like this. Hell is a place where there's no hope. Hell is the place where there's not a single ray of light, where there's no hope. Heaven is a place that is filled with holy hope. And we are here to manifest heaven on earth through giving hope in a dark place. We know that's Jesus Christ in us. That's the hope of glory.